Welcome to Starcraft. I'm Dreadbean, joined by Sapphire. Now, this is game 5 of the finals now between mOOnGLaDe, the purple Zerg, against Filthy, the random player, who's now the blue Zerg in this match. Now, this is on Lost Temple, and we've had a great tournament, so I'm looking forward to this fifth match.
Yeah, absolutely excited to see Lost Temple here. And Filthy once again spawning a Zerg because he's random, so it's always fun to see what he's going to get. Now, I think that this matchup must favour mOOnGLaDe because he was so strong in that initial encounter they had as Zerg versus Zerg, especially when it was on Metalopolis, and mOOnGLaDe's macro was just so good, and his harassment was just so good. He understands Zerg versus Zerg so well. So I'm not sure what Filthy is going to be able to do to him, but I would never in a million years count Filthy out. He's just comes up with such interesting ways to harass his opponent every single time. And here we are seeing a classic mirror match when the scouts lap each other. Nice prediction there by Filthy, reacting really well to that Overlord, not picking up any creep, so veering off really quickly and then finding mOOnGLaDe's position really fast. Especially at this point in the tournament, and we're at Game 5 when it's all happening, it could quite easily see a player drop some cheese in just to mix it up. There could be a 10 pull, so you've got to really have your scouting on just to make sure that there's nothing a little bit cheesy coming from either player. And so far it looks pretty macro orientated. Neither player throwing down a spawning pool yet. We are seeing a very fast gas from mOOnGLaDe, which he favours pretty handily. Finally seeing Filthy's spawning pool come online. mOOnGLaDe, I'm not quite sure if when he is going to pull. He just went for gas before pull. So interesting choice there by mOOnGLaDe, who now gets his gas operational, whereas Filthy went for the spawning pool slightly earlier, but gas slightly later. And in Zerg vs Zerg, these small differences might not seem like much, but they provide a huge difference. How quickly you can get gas online completely affects when you can make speedlings, whether you can get banelings, or whether you're going to make the slightly less common move into straight up roaches. From Filthy's perspective, getting that faster spawning pool and delayed gas means you have more access to more minerals for longer, so that you can build more Zerglings, depending on if you've got the larvae, and just build general structure upgrades a little bit quite quicker, but you're hurting on gas. So interesting deviation already.
Yeah, we've got, Filthy's queen is now coming out, but really it's just so early. They're just both building queens and upgrades right now. It doesn't look like Filthy will go with another, at least it's very early, but it seems like he won't go for an early pressure build again. So, I don't know, I like that by Filthy, that he can actually put the early pressure on. He is going with the Roach Warren now, though, so we'll have to see what Filthy has in mind, because he always comes up with something crazy.
Yeah, he's finally getting a scout out of there. Really good timing by Filthy because his queen is almost out and that queen was going to finish the job on that scout. So good move there to save his drone. Meanwhile, mOOnGLaDe just checking things out with his overlords, making sure there's no expansion in the way. Both players being pretty good with their overlord scouting at this point, but mOOnGLaDe setting an initial wave of Zerglings just to keep Filthy a bit honest here. So, but Filthy does have his own Zerglings out. This can catch players unaware, especially if you sort of get married to your macro ability and you just keep producing drones and pumping them out. And when your other player shows up, even they're not even really with a rush army, just to mix things up a little bit, you can actually catch some players a little bit offline, but Filthy's too good for that. Especially as if you haven't actually produced units and you've been flooding out drones, you can get caught off guard by this initial pressure and lose a queen, which is just devastating. But no, Filthy's just on top of the ball. He even has additional Zerglings coming in. More joining in from mOOnGLaDe, who is does have his speed upgrade online, so that will give him a little bit of an advantage here. But Filthy, by the meanwhile, is trying to drag the fight to his creep, and he's getting roaches online, so this is probably going to be repulsed quite easily. But we saw this last time they fought Zerg vs Zerg. mOOnGLaDe just got this initial bunch of Zerglings, very similar to what he has now, and just used them in non-stop harassment, just to keep Filthy constantly defending and constantly pumping units. And while mOOnGLaDe did that, he didn't build any more units, and got his macro online. Bit different this time though. We are seeing that lair tech into Hydras and a bunch of spine crawlers going down. I don't mind this play simply because going with such a roach build is very strong in Zerg vs Zerg in the mid game, because a very big roach push, especially when mOOnGLaDe's only got access to Hydras and Speedlings at this point, he's not going to have a lot of ability to repulse it, and it does mean that if this pressure doesn't come or he does hold it, he can take his expansion and then he's already got the spine crawlers up to defend it, which you can drop on the cliff and in positioning to really mess with those roaches. So yeah, I like the play from both players right now, but I think Filthy needs to do something with these roaches. He's invested into a roach build which is very expensive, and he has a lot coming, so he really needs to think about making an attack with it. He does have +1 upgrade on the way at about 50%, so when this finishes, we may see a timing attack, where an attack is based on that upgrade coming in. So I would assume Filthy is producing towards that end. It's just going to be a case of whether or not mOOnGLaDe recognizes this and sees the Roach upgrade in time. He does have a Overlord in position right on his ramp, so he'll see exactly when they move out. And it's just a case of whether or not mOOnGLaDe's going to be able to repulse it.
Yeah, Filthy just happy to hang out in his base while he builds up all these roaches. Meanwhile, both of these players not too interested in getting their second hatchery yet. So, yeah, it's just really after the mOOnGLaDe's initial push, just like last time, he's just kind of hanging out with his just regular army. He hasn't really built much else apart from a couple Hydras now. So, yeah, it's just really sitting tight until one of them wants to push out. It looks like Filthy might be the one because he is slowly moving across here with all these roaches. 4 more joining the initial group. So Filthy will see if mOOnGLaDe has a defense set up.
Yeah, luckily for well, good play by mOOnGLaDe that he had that scouting attack, so he could see this push out by Filthy here, because Filthy's hit critical mass and that upgrade's finished, so he's quite happy with his position. I don't like this choice of mOOnGLaDe to purely have Hydras. I'm assuming he's going to use his Spine Crawlers to take damage, but Roaches, this many Roaches against Hydras will just rip through them, because Hydras are light armored and Roaches have that armor upgrade, so they can take quite a few shots. They have decent hit points as well. But now they are falling back, so he's not committing to fighting to these Spine Crawlers. Surprising. With this many Roaches, I think Filthy would have won that engagement. It's just a case of whether or not he was able to rip through the Hydras while the Spine Crawlers went to work. But on the plus side, it has delayed mOOnGLaDe, who was looking to drop some creep down and put some Spine Crawlers up and get his expansion up. But it does look like mOOnGLaDe is just doing it now, so didn't delay all that much. I really think Filthy, with this massive investment in Roaches, should be really thinking about doing more damage with it.
Yeah, he's very paranoid about losing this and being, put on the back foot. But really, now mOOnGLaDe has his expansion up, and Filthy still has not decided to do that just yet. So, really, Filthy really should be pushing out or trying to do something with these roaches. But he's content to sit in his base with them, and he has it defended. But mOOnGLaDe is only now just pushing out with his Hydras. So. Yeah, we'll just have to sit tight. Burrow is being researched by Filthy though, so.
Yeah, really, yeah. Unfortunate loss there for Filthy. These Hydras are able to snipe off 2 Overlords, and that's supply blocked Filthy, who can't produce any more Roaches right now. But he's been pouring his money into upgrades here. He is getting that +1 Carapace, which is going to be, I'm assuming, the grounds for another timing attack. He's got Burrow on the way as well. Not to mention tunneling. He's got they switched the icons. He's got Geo Reconstitution coming along, so these roaches are going to be much faster. But I imagine he's going to wait for both those upgrades and the Burrow ability. I would have thought if he was going to go the option of Burrow, he would go tunneling claws so that he could move around and like skate past this defensive position. But he doesn't seem interested in that. He just seems interested in speed. So I guess he could attempt a run by. But at this point, mOOnGLaDe, getting his macro online and with these Spine Crawler positioning, I think he's going to be just fine, because it does mean that Roach blob will be forced into this corridor where they're going to take Spine Crawler shot after Spine Crawler shot, and the Hydras can hide behind them. Whereas when they were positioned in the base, in that L shape, it meant that the Roaches could get a really good convex angle on these Hydras, and the Hydras were balled down here, so he could even think about just ignoring the Spine Crawlers and positioning his Roaches to engage those Hydras directly and not just rip through them. So I don't like this anymore. Now we are seeing these Roaches go to work. They are trying to work on these Spine Crawlers, and a sneaky little Overseer going down for mOOnGLaDe.